In Greymoor, Maine, population 2003, if you counted the stray dogs, autumn always overstayed its welcome. By the second week of November, the pumpkins had started collapsing in on themselves, but crimson leaves still clung to the oaks like stubborn ornaments. The air smelled faintly of warm rust. Marla Donovan's life revolved around Marty's Diner, chrome counters, crackly jukebox, and a ceiling fan that ticked like a loose heart valve. The lunch crowd was all truckers and paper mill men. The evening shift belonged to teens sipping endless coffee. Weird things happened every fall. Radios picked up unlisted stations. TVs blinked to channels that didn't exist on their dials. People joked about magnetic storms rolling off the Atlantic, but everyone felt the hush before snow. That Tuesday night, driving home in her dented '84 Chevy, Marla saw a man under a lamppost on the county road. He held a paper bag close to his chest, head bent as if counting something inside. She slowed, headlights slanting through drizzle, but by the time she passed, he was gone. A single burnt orange leaf spiraled through the empty cone of light where he had stood. At home, she brewed tea, told herself it was fatigue. Yet as she closed the shades, she heard the faintest swish, the dry shuffle of kernels across wood, as though something had spilled beneath the floorboards. Wednesday morning, the diner smelled of bacon grease and floor polish. Joe Ellis, her best friend since 8th grade, and now the Greymoor Gazette's only reporter, lounged on a stool flipping through dusty archives. "Something's stirring up the backfields again," he said, tapping a black and white photo. "People claim the Scarecrow's back." Marla poured him coffee. "There's always a scarecrow around harvest. What's new?" "This one's moving. Last week, 2 teens swore it leaned toward them when they drove by. I smell free column inches." He pushed the article across the counter. Headline: Farm Family Tragedy, 1969. On the faded page, a boy, Peter Kramer, age 12, stood beside his father, both holding corn sickles. 10 days later, they vanished. A fire took the barn. The ground burned from underneath. A handwritten note at the bottom margin read, "Locals heard the crop singing." Joe chuckled. "Poetic horror. Maine eats that stuff up." Marla tried to laugh, but the words looped in her head. Singing crops. Lord. That night, the rain came heavy and cold. The usual route home was flooded, so she took County Road 13, the one running past the old Kramer place. Halfway along the curve stood a figure under the same lamp as the night before. But this time, it wasn't a man. Limbs too long, shoulders packed with straw, its burlap head tilted slightly as if focusing on her. Her headlights painted slick gold across its stitched-on smile. The wind batted its coat, and for one absurd heartbeat, she thought it was breathing. When she reached home, she tossed her raincoat over a chair, heart still tapping. Pulling the curtains tight, she caught a yellow glint on the windowsill. One corn kernel, wet enough to leave a ring of water around itself. Friday evening brought town meeting in the school gym. Folding chairs scraped, fluorescent lights buzzed. Sheriff Collins called the assembly to order. Reports of vandalism, odd noises near the Kramer property. Probably kids again. Halloween hangover. Let's not create another Witch of Weston Hill panic. Old Ed Griffin, former volunteer firefighter and unofficial keeper of Greymoor's oral history, raised his tremoring hand. "I was there the night that farm burned," he rasped. "The fire came upward,
like the earth exhaled it, and there was a sound, I still dream it. It wasn't the wind. Silence. Someone coughed. The town clerk mumbled about arson reports. Marla, standing by the bleachers, watched faces she'd known all her life. The gas station twins, Mrs. Keene from the library, kids passing notes. Ordinary folks pretending the word curse didn't hover at the edges of every October conversation. 3 days later, Joe dropped by her apartment, hair soaked, eyes gleaming. "Got it on tape," he shouted. "Went last night with the camcorder. You remember my Sony CCB TR5? Perfect night vision. Wait till you hear this." He slid the VHS into her player. The screen flickered. A shivering field under moonlight, Joe muttering about fog density. Static spasmed. From somewhere beyond the mic came garbled murmurings, a dozen voices under radio snow. At 14 minutes, the camera wobbled and caught Joe's shoulder. Behind him, half hidden, stood a shape. Head like a feed sack, features drawn in charcoal lines. Then through the hiss, "Don't leave the grain." A crack. The tape went black. The VCR powered down by itself. Joe forced a grin. "Battery glitch, electromagnetic mess. I'll edit it tomorrow." But his laugh didn't reach his eyes. Outside, the wind began turning in slow circles, pushing leaves against the window until they stuck like wet fingerprints. By Monday, Joe had vanished. His Civic sat crooked outside the Gazette office, windshield filmed with frost. On his desk, 13 corn kernels arranged in a neat half-moon. The sheriff shrugged. Probably Portland. That conference thing. Marla knew he hated conferences. At the library, she checked microfilm again, searching for Peter Kramer. One line caught her. Witnesses reported a smell of sweet smoke and something like boiled sugar. That's exactly what she'd smelled near County Road 13. By dusk, she was driving there, rational thought evaporating in the engine hum. The fog lay thick as wool. 2 scarecrows now stood guard. One older, rags flapping. The second fresh stuffed, its jacket unmistakably Joe's jean coat. "Joe?" Her voice cracked. The nearest figure tilted. From beneath its collar, a string of kernels spilled, clicking softly onto frozen dirt. All around the dry stalks started whispering, though there was no wind. The sound built, whisper becoming words. "They sow the ones who listen." Marla fled, breath cutting like knives. Half running, half stumbling, she crashed into her car. On the passenger seat lay a perfectly clean corn kernel, glistening as if placed moments ago. She didn't look back until Greymoor's water tower loomed through the fog. For weeks, the town hummed with half-truths. Coyotes took Joe, Joe joined a cult, Joe moved south for love. Every version ended with a shrug. Then the livestock started disappearing. Pigs first, then 3 cows. The grass turned brittle around the old farm like frostbitten hair. Thanksgiving brought meek sunlight. Marla carried pumpkin pie to old Ed Griffin's trailer. He sat in shadow, oxygen tube hissing. "I told the sheriff they'd be back. They always come after folks forget the harvest's rules." "Rules?" He reached under the table and slid out a plank of wood burned with 2 charred words, "Corn sees." "I carved that after the fire. It didn't help." Outside his trailer door, rows of tiny footprints trailed off into frozen weeds, too small for boots, too irregular for animals. Snow arrived overnight. The fields whitened, tracks vanished.
People put up Christmas lights. The diner played Winter Wonderland on loop. Life pretended normality. Yet sometimes, switching to Channel 1 on an analog set, viewers caught not local news, but soft, rhythmic crackle, grain moving across somewhere unseen. Marla tried to leave, packed one bag, aimed her Chevy toward the interstate. At mile 3, the radio fluttered, and a voice, her voice, came whispering through the static. "Stay till it's clean." She turned around. Greymoor's skyline reappeared like a mirage of porch lights and fog. Someone had to stay, to listen. By late December '90, Greymoor hosted its first Winter Harvest Festival. The townsfolk built a corn husk nativity display on the square, quaint, harmless. 2 nights before New Year's, the display was found rearranged. Joseph and Mary both facing east, every corn doll with its mouth colored black. Sheriff Collins cordoned the area, but reporters from Bangor still came, noting an artistic prank. Marla served them coffee, smiling politely, while inside her stomach felt packed with straw. That night she lay awake hearing tapping under her floor in perfect intervals, as if something beneath was counting seconds. Winter burned itself out early. By February, the snow crust cracked into gray slush. The ground near the Greymoor plot steamed, even in sub-zero mornings. Marla drove there one last time. The scarecrows were gone. A new sign stood in the mud, "Sold, future site of Greymoor Homes." She took a single kernel from her coat pocket, the one from her car seat, and dropped it into the thawing soil. The whisper arose immediately, faint but eager, like breath meeting breath. "Thank you." That night, frost bloomed inside her bedroom window, forming tiny symmetrical stalks, each tipped with a grain-shaped crystal. When Greymoor's sole video store closed 8 years later, the owner found an unlabeled cassette in a battered return bin. Scrawled in marker, "The Harvest." Curiosity won. A teenage clerk slid it into the display TV by the register. Static. Then the image of a woman in a light jacket filming a moon-drowned cornfield. On the audio, gentle humming, somewhere between lullaby and threshing rhythm. After 3 minutes, the ground on screen rippled. Something tall, faceless, unfolded from the rows. The picture shook, fell sideways, and froze on a blur of golden kernels cascading toward the lens. Then nothing but gray hiss. By morning, the store lights still glowed. The screen, locked on its final frame, emitted a faint amber shimmer, brightening and dimming like breathing. The clerk never returned to work. Only one copy of the tape existed, yet fragments later surfaced online. Low-res rips with comments saying, "If you pause at 00:14, you can hear the grain whisper your name." Locals tell the story differently every decade. Some call it the Scarecrow Fire, others the Static Harvest. Children dare one another to blink their headlights 3 times on County Road 13. But one thing never changes. When the season tips from red to gray, when the last stalk falls, and the air smells of sweet char, people close their windows early. Because every autumn, Greymoor breathes again, and from somewhere under frozen soil, a soft voice rustles, patient and hungry. Everything must be gathered.